Welcome to PWE Music. I'm Dr. Patrick Englert, and we're continuing on with our 2025 All-State Etude resource video journey. And in the beginning of this video, you heard the B major Etude, the Andante by Fairling and Rose from page 42 in the Voxman Selected Studies. And this is one of the selections for the Iowa All-State program. So let's dive in and check out a couple things about this etude and hopefully get you some help with your preparation. So when we approach these etudes, I like to consider what the etude is trying to get us to learn or what it's trying to get us to work on. And in this etude, we look at the key signature, B major, that's a lot of sharps. And we look at what's going on. We have a lot of slurs, a lot of long extended phrases. So the big takeaway with this one is we want to be as smooth as possible, and we want to work on using some difficult finger patterns and some good air support to get this etude as smooth as possible. So when you're working on it, make sure to go through, check out where you might have some difficulty with the fingerings. And one thing with B major that we're going to be working on particularly are our pinky keys. So mark in your rights and lefts, make sure that we're working around the notes that we can't alternate sides on, so like our D sharps, and in many cases our G sharps. And one trick that you'll probably need to use somewhere in this etude is something I call the double tap. So following the idea that we're going to be working backwards or around the notes that we can't alternate sides on. Now that's D sharp and G sharp in the second register, or low G sharp and low C sharp. These are notes that we can't play on an alternate side. So when we have to approach it from another pinky key, if that pinky key is on the same side or we're set up to approach it from the same side, during that note, we alternate sides. So let's find an example. So here we're going to look in measure 5, and this measure goes something like this. So we play a C sharp, followed by a G sharp. Now G sharp, we have to play with our left pinky, back down to C sharp. When we go back down, we'd be on the right side. Well, right after that C sharp is a D sharp, which we'd be playing also on the right side. And this is a situation where we can't even slide. So what do? During that third beat, the C sharp on the downbeat of the third beat, we alternate from the right side to the left side during that C sharp. So continuing on with the idea that we want to make this etude as smooth as possible, one thing that we want to consider is that dynamics are comparative. If you watch other videos of mine, this is something I talk about frequently, that piano should be played with a nice full sound, but soft. It's not the softest thing we can play. It shouldn't sound like we are struggling with this dynamic. We want to leave room to get softer. And of course, if this is the approach that we take, we do want to work on developing our louder dynamics so that they are full and rich without getting into bad spread tone. So let's consider this etude. We begin with piano. If we look through, it does give us some dynamics. It's not completely devoid of them, but really the loudest one that it indicates is just a mezzo forte. So we have already a smaller dynamic range, just really between piano, there are some pianissimos, piano and mezzo forte is our working range. So we should have a little bit more leeway to expand that range. Remember, if dynamics are comparative, piano, mezzo piano, we want to just show the difference between those. There's no set number, like if you're looking at a decibel meter, that a piano would be or a mezzo forte would be. It's all compared to one another. So this etude, once again, let's start with piano. Now, if we want to have any hope of getting through this etude, we want to make sure that we're relaxed and we're kind of conserving our energy as much as possible. This etude is very much a marathon, not a sprint. So if we take it from the approach, we want to be comfortable, full tone, yet soft, rather than the softest thing we can play. That's going to guarantee that we can play a little bit smoother, we'll have better air support, and all these things should gel and work together. So rather than try to play the most ghostissimo piano you have, where it may not be the smoothest, we may have some difficulty going between the registers, we may not start in time. Once again, we approach from the approach of full sound, yet soft. course, to make sure that it's perceived as piano, we use our louder dynamics to show the comparison between the soft, where we start, and some of the louder range. Next, let's touch on this mini cadenza we have on the final system. If we look closer, we see it's just a chromatic scale between the high D sharp and that lower F sharp trill. Now we want to avoid a common pitfall with chromatic scales like this, where we let it become noodly, or what I would call oatmeal-y. And that is, we don't have much clarity, the fingers just kind of noodle, and it just kind of like vaguely falls down between the two bookend notes. How we combat this is with grouping it into smaller portions. So this specific one, we can group it into evenly groups of 4. And what this will do is it gives us something to latch onto, and we can kind of meter out this fall down. If we kind of like accelerando into the fall, it gives it more of that fall feel rather than just kind of linearly zipping down as fast as we can. So let's listen. So if we just go and zip down as fast as we can and noodle, this is what it would sound like. So not the cleanest, and I may have hammed it up a little bit, but let's try it with the note groupings here. So you can hear much cleaner. We can hear all of the notes, and it gives us, as a listener, a little something more to latch onto as well. As a final note, let's go over some of the difficult accidentals that we're going to find in here. So double sharps. These are the ones that look like an X. Double sharps do exactly what they say. They double the amount of sharpness. A single sharp raises a note by half a step. A double sharp will raise it a whole step, or 2 half steps together. So if we look, we see we have a G double sharp in here. On the 4th system, the final measure of the 4th system, G double sharp, a whole step above G, is played like an A natural. At the beginning of that line, 2 measures before that, we have an F double sharp. A whole step above F natural would be G natural. So we play an F double sharp like we would play a G natural. We also have a couple of maybe confusing single sharps, and that is E sharp and B sharp. In both these cases, we remember what a sharp does. It raises a note by half a step. Now it can be confusing with E and B because there is no extra note between E and F and B and C. There's, like if we were looking at a piano, there's no black key between those two. But we still follow the rule of we raise the note by half a step. So E natural, raised by half a step, is played like F natural. B natural, raised half a step, is just played like C natural. Now in all these cases, I would caution you to try and think of those notes as they are written. Double sharps and the E sharp and the B sharp may seem a little clunky and a little confusing, but if we can work on thinking of those notes as that spelling, rather than kind of transposing it in our heads to C natural or G natural or whatever note it is in that specific case, that's going to help us when we are playing, and that we don't have to do kind of extra steps to think. We want to simplify, and thinking about the note in that particular spelling will help that, even if it seems a little bit confusing at first. So that about covers it for this B major etude. If there's some other question you have about this one, or you think that I missed something, be sure to drop a comment below. Be sure to subscribe, as we'll be getting into plenty of other all-state etudes, and that should help with your preparation of those other etudes as well. And we'll see you in the next one. Happy practicing.